Hello everybody, and welcome to a new series called How to Rig Valvegear in Roblox Studio using hinges. In this series, I will be showing you guys how to rig individual or different valve gears in Roblox Studio using the VS2 system and hinges. As you can see here, we have a double fairly bogey from my double fairly Merlin, which is inside Stevenson's valve gear. As you can see over here, here is the original one. Now if I click constraint details, you'll see this is the fully rigged version, and this is the unrigged version, except for the fact that I have already installed the vehicle C2 attachment motors. Now, if we go to play test here, we can see that this guy works perfectly. I've already rigged this all up, and it should run pretty smoothly, assuming that I did it correctly, which I know I did because I rigged it. Alright, we are in. So, if I hop into this, as you can see, if we run it, you can see this valve gear works perfectly. Everything looks smooth, concise, and very nice looking. So yeah, this is the fully rigged version. This over here is the unrigged version, except for the wheels. As you can see, only the wheels turn, but the rods and stuff are completely gone. I will be showing you how to turn this into that, but not like this actual model. Like, if you have any model that has inside Stevenson's valve gear, then yeah, this will work with that model. So let me just stop and let me go back. Alright, so now that we're back, as you can see, this model is pretty nice looking, but it has no hinges, therefore it has nothing to make it work. So, first things first, you're going to want to make sure that your model has the advanced well 2, vehicle seat, vehicle seat 2 by NW space K, and the, let me just close these up, and the, if I just go down, and the vehicle C2 configuration that you would get from, if I just find it, I don't remember where I put it. Where'd it go? Oh, here we go. That you would get from the vehicle C2 train chassis that you can get off the toolbox. So once you have this all working, and you know it actually works, then we can get on to how to actually rig these rods. I will first start with the outside rods because I feel like that's a good starting point. So before you rig rods, here's a word of advice, or not a word of advice, just something to tell you. Make sure that each individual rod is individually grouped. So as you can tell, this rod is grouped as the right connecting rod. Everything from this rod is grouped in here. As you can tell on here, we have the right piston rod. Everything here is grouped into the specific group. As you can see, we have all the things here. So let's start rigging. First, we're going to want to take this inside, this coupling rod. We're going to want to take this specific piece or part, and we're going to want to add an attachment. Now, attachments are basically little nodes that, when you connect together with specific, I'm actually not sure what these are called. I'll have to look them up, but like, I think these are called attachments. But essentially, each of these do a specific different physics thing. Hinges allow you to turn on an axis. Piston radics allow you to go to different directions. Spring, rods, rope, you get the idea. So, once you have your attachment in here, it's also very vital that the attachment yellow, this yellow arrow, is facing the same direction as this attachment motor. And you need to make sure that every single attachment faces that direction, except for a specific few, which I'll be showing later. So, once you got this attachment into place, next you're going to take this part, I'm still not sure what this is called, and you're going to put an attachment into here as well. Now, as you can tell, they do look like they're almost exactly lined up, but not quite. As you can tell, there's a bit like the space here. So what you should do is, or what I like to do is, I like to move this attachment out somewhat, take this attachment, create a hinge, and connect it to here, and bada bing, bada boom, you have the hinge here. Now, another important thing you have to note is that you have to make sure this attachment is perfectly aligned with this attachment. However, considering the fact that this is the attachment that will be going on the, this is the attachment from the axle, this is the more important one. So let me actually just undo that real quick and take this attachment. Autosave. Let me take this attachment and move this one out somewhat. I think, yes. So then I'm going to attach this to here. But we're going to want to make sure that this guy is equal with this guy. So what we'll do is we'll click on this attachment, go to properties, go down to world C-frame or the position, and we'll look at the Y value. Now, as you can see, this Y value says 1.655. You go to this one and you see that it has the same Y value. Good, so we're just going to paste it in. But we already did that, so it doesn't matter. So we're going to take this attachment, then we're going to take the entire position, copy that, and we're going to paste it directly into this attachment here. Once we've pasted it into there, boom, these two attachments are now perfectly aligned. Now we're going to do the same thing on this side. And make sure that when doing this, that make sure that the orange arrow is also facing directly up. I've noticed that when it doesn't, it'll sometimes have issues, so it's just a word of advice. Now we're going to put the attachment onto this front axle. But as you can tell from here, well, actually you probably can't tell, so first we're going to create the hinge from here to here. But as you can tell from here, this attachment is actually lower than this attachment. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the position, we're going to go to the Y value, we're going to copy the Y value from there, go to the position and Y value here, paste it into there, then we can take this entire position, paste it into this version of the position on this attachment, and boom, these two are perfectly aligned now. So yeah, I'm going to do this for the other rods, and I will show you what to do for the piston rods, so I'll be back soon. Oh yes, also, so you might have noticed that this rod here, this connecting rod, has two places where it has two areas where it attaches to the piston rod. Now I have seen some modelers build it where they have each hinge connected here. You do not need to do that. In fact, you only need one hinge for this rod here. It both lowers the amount of attachments you have and makes it a little bit easier to rig and a bit less redundant because it only needs one. So yeah, let me just rig it up like this. So let's see, that's the right piston. So then we're going to take this guy, create an attachment to there, make sure that it's all lined up. So then we're going to turn you to here, move you up to there. Then we're going to take this attachment and then we're going to hinge it to this one. And we're going to make sure, if by copying this guy, we're going to paste it into there. Alright, there we go. Now, these guys are all hinged up. However, if I were to test it now, only this coupling rod here would work. This guy would just flop onto the ground underneath the world. The reason for that is because this piston rod needs to be attached to this piston by use of a prismatic attachment, or prismatic constraint. Yes, they're called constraints, by the way. So first we're going to take this attachment, and instead of having the yellow arrow face this direction, we're going to have it face forwards, and we're going to have the orange arrow face up. Now the reason for this is because prismatic constraints work in the way that essentially they're almost like rod constraints, but they allow for the movement of this. Essentially you have to be completely straight. Now we're going to take this part here, put an attachment into here, make sure it's facing the same direction, and after we do that, we're going to take this attachment here, open up the constraint tabs, we're going to click prismatic, and we're going to click that prismatic into this attachment, and boom, this attachment now has a prismatic. Now, if we go to test it, you can see that this side now works and all these rods move in synchrony. They should all move and nothing should fall on the ground. If something does most likely fall on the ground, then either you probably didn't add an attachment or you forgot to add a prismatic constraint. The prismatic constraint system also, the prismatic constraint angling, such as the same as on these rods, is the same for everything. You want to make sure that it's all aligned. So, if we test it here, as you can see, yes, everything works on this side. However, this will have the issue of jamming because there's no Valvegear for the other side. I will show you what to do on that. So let's just stop the test. Now, as you can see on this side, these pair of rods are in the exact same position as this pair of rod. However, the axle is faced upwards at a 90-degree angle, or a 90-degree angle from this guy. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, why is this? Why not align these guys up there? Well, once this autosave stops, okay, there we go. Well, I could do that. However, I have noticed it does take a lot more work, and it can be quite inconsistent in the sense that it might not align properly. So, what I normally do is first we'll put an attachment into here. Make sure that it's lined up to there. Okay, great. The attachments are lined up to there. Then we're going to take this part. We're going to put an attachment into here. we're going to line that up to here. Make sure the yellow arrow is facing this direction. You can't have yellow arrow. I don't think you can have yellow arrows face inwards or at each other, because I'm pretty sure it'll break the system. I'm not sure, I haven't tested it. But basically, what we're going to do now is we're going to take this attachment, we're going to copy its, I believe it's the Z value. Let me just see. No, it was the X value. Yes, you got to copy the X value. You got to go to this attachment, then you got to paste the X value into this X value, moving it back just slightly. Then you're going to take this attachment, create a hinge to it, and when the game playtest, this will snap into place and essentially auto-quarter the rods. Now we're going to do the same thing for this side. You also have to make sure and be absolutely certain that every single attachment is exactly aligned with the other attachment. Because if they're not, then it can cause issues with the rods, as in they'll jam, despite the fact that it doesn't look like they should jam. They will start jamming and they will slow down the engine and cause issues. I discovered this actually when I was rigging some commission engines over there. I realized that they were not running well, and when I looked into it, I realized, oh wait, it's because they're not aligned properly. Kind of a dumb mistake, I know, but I had never actually properly done it beforehand. I'd always done like just copy and paste because, you know, the rods were never really centered. So yeah, next we're going to paste it into here. As you can see now that it's aligned. Now we're going to take this attachment, put the create a hinge constraint there, and boom, these guys should now snap into place when testing. Now I'm going to finish up these rods, and then I will give it a play test to show you guys what I mean. So see you then. And there we go. This side should all be rigged up now. If we go to the playtest, we will see if it works. Alright, and here we are. Let's go test it. We get onto it. As you can see, this side snapped up to position, and if we test run it, it runs perfectly smooth. No slowing down, no jamming up, no nothing. These rods are running perfectly. Now, this is where the video could end, and if you wanted, you don't have to continue. However, since I'm going to be showing how to rig inside Stephensons, I will now show you guys how to do that, but you could just go with this outside rods, and the model would be perfectly fine. The inside Stephensons is actually not needed. It's more just for aesthetic purposes, and for making the model more realistic. But essentially, you just need these rods in this position, well, not, and kind of, it just mean you need these rods, these outside rods, and that's all you need for making the engine run, unless you're making like an inside engine, in which case you probably need these guys inside, but you know, I digress. Anyway, let us begin on the inside Stephensons. As you can see, on this model, if I pull out the rear axle, you can see that this axle, oops, I also have this autosave on a lot because, you know, I don't trust Roblox's savings feature sometimes. But as you guys can see, on this axle, we have these cylinders facing a 90-degree direction. So we have this cylinders that direction and up. Then we have the cylinders face that direction and up again. Now, this is now these are all in 90-degree increments. So you have like 90, 180, 270, 360. Now, I'm sure you're wondering why this is, and mainly this is a way to quarter everything properly. I'm not sure why it's like that. Well, I mean, I kind of know why, but like, it's a bit hard to explain. I will be linking in the description some sites that I use, and I can show you, probably give you a bit more detail on why they're, I guess, quartered that way. I think it's like it's like a quartering thing, because that guy quartered up there, quartered up, but yeah, whatever. So first things first, let's start rigging these 4 rods. So first we're going to be taking this part here, putting an attachment into here. We're going to want to make sure the attachment is moved to this direction, and that is correctly. Now we're going to take this attachment, or this part, we're going to put an attachment there. Then we're going to rotate that up there. We're going to rotate it like this. Now you want to, now in this case you probably don't need to have it so that way it's like perfectly aligned, but I generally do suggest that you have it like that. So then you will take this attachment, put a hinge in it, make sure to hinge it up to there, and since this model is perfectly like aligned, or I think it should be aligned, then you don't need to do any of that, but just in case, make sure to do what you did for these rods and these attachments out here. So I'm going to finish up rigging these inside ones, or these three other ones, and then I'm going to show you what to do about the expansion links. Also, if you notice me moving out some rods and deleting a few parts, don't worry, this is how I rig stuff. Essentially, I do this in the sense of I want to make sure that what I'm rigging will be proper, like what I'm basically, I do this because I want to make sure I am selecting the correct part. So in this case, I want to select this, well, I want to select one of these three cylinders. So yeah, anyway, back to the time lapse. Also, if you already have a model that's already rigged, like you didn't rig it but somebody else did, then I highly suggest making sure to check those out to see what to do. In my case, I'll probably be checking out this model just to make sure I'm doing this correctly because it's already a pre-rigged model and I just want to make sure I'm not going to mess this up, so yeah. That's just another thing that you should note. Alright, there you go. All these four rods are connected up to the rear hinge, or the rear axle. Now, while I could test it now, these rods would just fall for the floor and, not do much. So now I'm going to show you how to rig these up to the expansion links. Now, assuming you've already built expansion links on your model, autosave, then this should be pretty easy to follow along, but essentially, you're going to want to, well, in some cases, essentially what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that these guys are attached. Essentially, this is the same instance as in here, that they snap into place. The expansion links will probably be in different directions. They won't be like this straight direction. They won't be like this, exactly the straight, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure why. I'm pretty sure I know why, but it's because of that. But yeah, essentially just follow along what I do, and you should be able to get it to work. So we're gonna put an attachment here. And again, I'm sorry if I'm not making much sense. This is my first time doing a video like this. I'm not very used to this type of commentary video. I'm more used to reading off a script, which I can, type that out and be able to do that. So, doing this more live commentary-esque video similar to my other videos is, a bit hard. So bear with me if I don't make sense sometimes. And there we go. The expansion links are now rigged up to these rods. However, we're not done yet. Now we're going to be attaching the expansion links to these parts, which essentially hold the expansion links to the reversing gear. So I'll be showing you how to do that now. Alright then, these should now be rigged up into place, mostly. However, I am going to make sure that these are rigged up to this one just in case. Just because I'm not, well, actually, well, I'll just go check this model. Yes, as you can tell in this model, these, what are these called again? I just called them connectors, but these, reversing gear, they're also connected up to this rod, so that's also another thing. Make sure to connect everything up to here. If you're going to be building, like, fully functional reverser gear, I'm not going to teach you how to do that, because even I'm still trying to figure out that, so if you want, you basically just need to attach these all up to here. Anyway, back to the time lapse. Ah, here's something I made a mistake on. I should have turned this orange thing toward this attachment this direction. This will sometimes happen. Don't worry, you just have to rotate it a bit. But do make sure that you check that out before you start up the test, or else it might just break the entire model. I've had it happen before, and it becomes like a pain to try to figure out. Although in that case, it is pretty obvious what happens, so that doesn't become the hardest thing to figure out. Just want to watch out for that and make sure you don't make that mistake. Anyway, that should be the expansion link connected up now. Alright then, there we go. We have the expansion links connected to the inside rods, and those inside rods are connected to the rear axle, and then the axles are connected to these outside rods. Now it's time for the final part, these inside pistons. So, as you can see, on my model, I have the die block already in the expansion link group. Like, I'm not sure if this is the correct way to do it, but I have seen people do it in models. Well, I personally have done it in models before, and it works fine. Pretty sure you have to have the die block in this part if you want it to work properly with, like, reverser gear, but since I'm not teaching you how to do that, it doesn't really matter. Just make sure that the die block is perfectly centered, or perfectly centered to, like, neutral gear, so that way when the engine runs, it won't cause any running issues. Because I have noticed that sometimes if it's not properly positioned, it will cause tons of issues. So yeah, we're just going to put an attachment here, make sure that's equal to there. We're going to attach this to the left piston, then we're going to take this attachment here, use the method I showed beforehand, like that, and boom. When the game starts, it will snap into place like it did last time. Alright, now we're on to our last step. Rigging these guys. Rigging this is relatively simple because it's basically just an outside piston, but inside. So yeah, I'm just gonna do that real quick. Now here's the thing. So, if you notice that these attachments are very close to these attachments, don't worry, it's not going to cause any issues. Well, I do notice, well, I sometimes will push these attachments out a bit. At the same time, you don't need to, because they just need to basically be aligned and stuff, like this. But yeah, essentially, we are done. We have completely rigged inside Stevensons. Now, the final part, testing it. If it works first try, then congratulations! You have successfully rigged your first valve gear in Roblox. Assuming Stevenson's valve gear is the first valve gear you're building, which I kind of don't suggest you do that. I would suggest doing like wall shirts or Hacksworth, especially Hacksworth. Hacksworth is, I think, like one of the easiest valve gears to rig in Roblox. But yeah, if you're doing this first try, then, you know, congratulations. You're on your way to becoming a successful modeler. Now, if we hop onto the model, you can see that everything seems to have attached to each other, and if we start running it, bada bing, bada boom, everything is running. These back rods are running in synchrony with these outside rods. These attachments there are running perfectly. These guys are also running well, and yeah. Congratulations. You have successfully rigged Stephensons. Or I guess I have. I don't know, maybe you haven't yet, but you know. If you follow along the tutorial, then yes, congratulations, you have successfully rigged Stephensons. And that, I think, will end it for today. Thank you all so much for watching this tutorial. I really hope it was helpful and taught you guys how to rig some valve gear in Roblox. Comment down below if I was understandable. I apologize for my stuttering. I have never really done this before, as I already stated earlier in the video. But yeah, tell me guys what Valvegear you guys want me to see in rig next. Anyway, that'll be all from me for now. Thanks so much for watching.